Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy, Nate Weitzer, on the East Coast. And we are looking to stay pretty hot here, Nate, in the early NBA season on a full Wednesday night slate here. About 10 games to bring to you guys. Want to make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We are bringing you these game lines, videos, and our player props each and every weekday of this regular season. I should mention we are talking about a marquee matchup in this one, Nate, in the Eastern Conference. The Nets are in Milwaukee, taking on those Bucks. Get into all things that here in just a moment. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great written content for you guys all season long. Also have our odds finder tool on there that you can go ahead and use to shop all of those NBA lines to the best of your ability across U.S. sportsbooks. Nate, let's go ahead and get into that big slate for tonight in the NBA.
Yeah, 1 week into the season, I mean, we're starting to get a little bit of an idea of how things are going, but really, things are really still developing. So there's some opportunities here to bet low, to buy low on some spreads and totals. And just going through the lines real quick, we got Magic +8 at the Cavs, Hawks -7 at Detroit. Detroit on a back-to-back there. The Nets, like you said, at Milwaukee. The spread right now, -3.5 for the Bucks. The total at 232. The Hornets are +7.5 at your Knickerbockers. The Sixers -1.5 at Toronto in a playoff rematch there. Pacers +7.5 at Bulls. The Spurs are still in Minnesota, +9 at Mini. We're going to talk about that game in a minute. The old home and home in the same week. Weird schedule there. Rockets +7 at Utah. They also played on Monday, but in Houston. The Lakers are +5.5 at Denver. And then the Heat -2 at the only undefeated team in the NBA currently, the Portland Trailblazers. The Bucks 1-1. Wait, the Bucks are undefeated. They're just the Blazers are the only 4-0 team. Okay, yeah, the Bucks are 2-0. Right. And really, the first thing that jumps out is that their numbers are kind of skewed by that opener against Philly, a 90-88 win with a 92 pace. Milwaukee's offense was putrid. Their defense was incredible. And they're currently the best defensive team in the league because then their second game against Houston, also pretty good defense. But they put up 125 on a bad defense. And, you know, Brooklyn, by the numbers, is the worst defense in the league. And it's not particularly close. They're the worst rebounding team in the league. And it's not particularly close. They're getting 29 defensive rebounds per game. 29. When you have like 50 plus defensive possessions, you're only getting a defensive board on 29 of them. I'm just gonna repeat that again. So they can't get rebounds. They're giving up 14 offensive rebounds per game, and in comes the hulking Bucks with Giannis and Brook Lopez healthy down low. The Bucks are going to depend on their interior play until they get Middleton back. But they've also been efficient from the 3-point line and on lower numbers than usual, shooting 40% from deep. You look at the recent history, the Bucks have always kind of bullied this team down low, winning the rebound advantage. The Nets won a game that one out of their last 6 meetings in the regular season. The Nets won. KD was actually out for that game, but it was really some stellar role players performing there. Bruce Brown, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, James Johnson guarding Giannis. Kyrie had 38 in one of his return from hiatus games. So, I mean, the point is none of those role players are around anymore. The Nets role players stink, and some of them are just out injured. And that's partially why they can't figure anything out. And the lineups with Ben Simmons are just abysmal. He has an individual 123 defensive rating. With him and KD on the floor, they're -30 with a 135 defensive rating. Him and Claxton -20. Surprisingly, the defense is worse than the offense in that combination. And surprisingly, with Simmons and Irving on the floor, again -20, but the 97 offensive rating. It's like what Kyrie can't get the right spacing with this guy floating around in no man's land, refusing to shoot the ball. Brooklyn also dead last in 3-point percentage, allowing 55 paint points per game. I mean, it's at risk of saying like something's got to give here. Like the Nets might turn it around and play for some pride in a potential like Eastern Conference semifinals preview, whatever you want to call it. But even when they play kind of well against the Bucks, they will still lose. I mean, the last meeting, Bucks won in overtime. The Bucks had a 17-22 assist to turnover ratio and shot 28% from three and won the game. The Nets had doubled up their assist to turnover ratio. And how did they win? Because Giannis had 44, he had 19 free throw attempts, and they won the rebounding battle by 10. I mean, just no rebounds, no rings, no regular season wins. And so that's where you go with the Bucks here. If you can get them a -3.5, I think that's fine. I also don't mind teasing it down because I think you can bet overs consistently with this Nets team. And if you tease that total to 228, I don't really see how it goes under that, the way the Nets are playing. And the way the Bucks, I think you're getting some value on the over because of their opener, and they've only played 2 games.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points there. First of all, I'm just going to go right back. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were rolling, but I did want to say on those 29 defensive rebounds that they're getting a game, they're giving up 93 field goal attempts. Do the math on that. They're giving up 93 field goal attempts, and they're playing at the 7th slowest pace. That's the other insane thing is like they're just giving up second chance points. By the dozen here, by the 14 or so a game, and they're giving up shots and not getting possessions on offense and giving up possessions on defense, and it's just all bad. And that stat that you mentioned about the Bucks, and their poor assist to turnover ratio -5, yet they're winning. They're beating this team by a couple points last season in overtime. That's all of it. You can make as many mistakes as you want, and you're still fine, right? It's like playing whoever the worst offense is in the NFL. It doesn't matter if you turn the ball over; you might be able to get it back. You'll probably hold them to a field goal, and you'll have more opportunities to score against a really bad defense. And that's this Nets team, which is just. It's a little bit painful to watch. I mean, the key thing that you're talking about here is like there's no shooting around KD, and there's no shooting around him or Kyrie. So this is not a 2-man league, and then it doesn't matter who's on your team anymore. We know that role players are crucial at this point, and that depth to that degree is also super crucial for those second quarter units and obviously into the late third quarter, the second units there. So all these things, just KD points, yes, we're going to talk about that. All of that, he's really selling out, and that's pretty obvious. His usage rate's at 34%, dropping 32 points a game. His 3-point shooting hasn't been there, but the whole team hasn't been there, and it's all catch and shoot. They're also in the bottom of the league in terms of assisted field goals on their threes and 2-pointers. Doesn't matter where they're shooting from; it's all unassisted stuff going in. Obviously, still in the top 5 in 2-point mid range when you have Kyrie and KD, who's KD obviously that's his go-to. So there's not a lot to like here for that. For Brooklyn in any way, I'm fine with the -3.5. The thing that scares me about that total at 233.5 is one, that Bucks defense. And 2, the lack of offense and explosiveness that the Bucks have shown so far this season. I mean, Giannis going to Giannis, right? And average a double-double, almost 13 boards a game. He's even got the almost 6 assists a game to go along with nearly 33 points a game. So he's playing like his MVP self, but it's really the lack of scoring and pace and explosiveness behind him with Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen. Those are the only guys scoring outside of Giannis at this point. They're all in double digits, which is nice, but Brook is their second leading scorer at 13 points a game. And that's in 30 minutes. I don't think you really want him playing that 30 minutes. I think you'll see his minutes continue to wane a bit as Bobby Portis continues to get back into his role as well. So, look, I mean, they're short guys, and that's the only reason that I think this spread is, even at 3.5 is what it is. In Milwaukee, you got to feel a bit better about the Bucks team, who they didn't play like their normal Bucks selves at home last year, whereas the previous 2 years they were, they had something like a 75% winning percentage at home. But I do still think that's a huge advantage for them this season, and will continue to be, even though I will finish by saying Brooklyn doesn't really have home court advantage wherever they are at this point. So I'm not sure they're worried about playing on the road either. Yeah.
I mean, going back to what you said about role players, I think that's the biggest deal here because the Bucks haven't played since the 22nd. That is a huge amount of rest for guys like George Hill and Wes Matthews, who are now forced into big roles because of their injuries on the wing. George Hill's extremely efficient when he gets out there. He was a +20 in their last game in 24 minutes, and you get him a little extra rest. Now he can play big minutes, do a decent job guarding Kyrie and maintain that efficiency on offense. What you said about the Bucks defense being too scary to take the over, I would say that probably makes sense in terms of them guarding a Sixers team still figuring it out in that second game of the season. But the Nets right now, I mean, we talked about it. It's like, are KD and Kyrie going to play both ends of the floor, or are they just going to put up their empty stats and move on and maintain their career averages? Because that's what it looks like right now. It looks like, the bottom tier of NBA power rankings, Nets and Lakers, let's play joyless basketball and put up some numbers and try not to be a complete laughing stock, because that's where they're at until they get some help from Mr. Simmons or from these guys who are still out. TJ Warren, Markieff Morris maybe can add some toughness rebounding on the defensive end. And when you're giving up that many second chance points, that'll help your numbers. Certainly, these teams have gone to 230 at least in their last 4 games. Now, 3 of those went under because the totals were much higher. But that's what I'm saying, is that if you tease it down to 228, 229, I feel very confident about that. I mean, the Nets, in their last game, they hit 270 with Memphis, another team that crashes the glass, that attacks the paint and has an unstoppable penetrator like Ja Morant and like Giannis, who just continually brings it against this Nets team. And the last thing, I'll look at for an angle is the double-double in a win for Giannis is -115 in FanDuel. That's a nice money line hack instead of -175. I mean, he has a double-double in 8 of his last 9 against the Nets, averaging 13 boards against this team, which, like we said, can't rebound.
Yeah, Giannis is going to have 8 boards by the half for sure. That would be my prediction. So I think it's going to be one of those games that, you look up and all of a sudden it's like 12-2 Bucks. And Giannis has 6 points and a couple of rebounds. Even if they don't start out that hot, you are starting to really convince me on this over. Just in those 3 games that I've seen the Nets play this season. I mean, the last game that we saw them play was against Memphis, and so I don't put quite as much stock in that initially as I do. I think obviously Memphis plays a lot faster, fast break. But to your point, it's the same style of play. They're very, very similar, except for obviously the amount of threes that Milwaukee shoots. Milwaukee's a lot more threes, fast break, fast break. Memphis is fast break, crash the offensive glass, crash the offensive glass. So there's some similarities there that I think does increase the pace. You look at the only game that the Nets went, they went under once in that Toronto game, where that was a much lower scoring game, but obviously against the Pellies, another similar style of offense with a lot of great wing players, and then a penetrator like Zion, another game that went way over. And the Nets didn't even do their part in that game. They only scored 108, and that still went, to 238 or so, right, in that total. So I'm starting to really realize the Nets, whoever they play, if they play another fast-paced team who wants to, go crash the glass and get out in transition, then they're toast. And like I said, they're playing at the 24th fastest paced, so the 7th slowest, and they're still barely getting enough possessions and giving up a ton of defensive possessions. So they just have a lot to fix, man, and they don't have the players or the horses to fix it, in my opinion, as we keep talking about. A la the Lakers, you need 3 and D guys, and they don't have it right now. So
we're looking at this Spurs-Wolves game, and if Devin Vassell is not able to go tonight, I think you'd see the spread climb to double digits. But I'm having a little trouble doubting the Spurs at this juncture. I mean, the thing is, though, they've been sneaking up on people, right? They snuck up on the Sixers. They looked like maybe the worst team in the NBA in their opener, but then people aren't taking them seriously, thinking they're tanking. And so they won 3 in a row, kind of just sneaking up. But they're not going to sneak up on Minnesota for the second straight game. The thing is, Minnesota's not that good. I mean, they made the big move for Rudy Gobert, and they lost 4 rotational players in the process. 4 glue guys. I mean, 2 particularly important, I think, in Pat Bev and Jared Vanderbilt, who's a quicker, more switchable big that you can put alongside Cat and play a little bit of better defense. I mean, the defense hasn't been the problem, though. It's the spacing. It's the offense with Rudy and Cat on the floor, which was always the concern. And with Anthony Edwards not really coming out of the gates the way people might expect him to. That being said, I think this is get right time for their offense, which is shooting 29% from 3. That's not going to last. I think this was the best 3-point shooting team in the league last year, right? The Spurs, yeah, and they went over at a ridiculous rate at home, scored the most points in the league in home games. The total, like I said, has already crept up 3 points, and I'm a little nervous about the Spurs continuing what they did, but their defense down the stretch has been abysmal, particularly the fourth quarter, giving up 36 points per game, most in the league by far. So whether you take the Wolves team total, I think they get 120 tonight. I think they try to clap back on that end of the floor. And I wouldn't necessarily take them to cover 10 points because I don't think that they figured out their rotations and their spacing yet. But I think that they do find a rhythm on offense against a Spurs team that is, rebuilding. Certainly doesn't really have a bunch of wing stoppers in any sense of the word. So there is opportunities here for Minnesota to push the pace a little bit more and get going. It's crazy that they're ninth in pace and they're still getting 103 possessions per game, and the Spurs third in pace. So I understand the over here. But I think, what I lean towards is the Wolves bouncing back on offense. And if I'm pressed to pick the spread, I think the Spurs can cover double digits here and at least keep it close, if not, pull out another stunner.
Yeah, it's crazy that we were about to start this video, talk about this total, and we hadn't realized since we started recording and really talking about other stuff this morning, that spread that total had already jumped from what we liked it at about 232 or so, all the way up to 235 in a very short amount of time. I mean, look, the 9 points is like, I'm also just like, I'm going to take that until the Timberwolves show me they're actually like, they can play better than the Spurs. Same concept as these teams that are struggling off the bat. The 76ers have another big game tonight after they lost to the Spurs recently, but finally got in the win column. But they have a big game tonight as well against the Raptors. That is, it's kind of like, all right, show me something. And this Timberwolves team is the same concept here with the Spurs. Like, show me something. And what I mean specifically is, show me that all these guys can play on offense at the same time. Show me that like Rudy Gobert isn't messing everything up with Karl Anthony Towns. Tell me that Ant Edwards is going to come back and look like the explosive player that he was last year. Those are all the things that I'd be waiting to see, because none of that stuff is going on right now. Kat and Rudy on the floor, taking a quick look at their two-man lineup. Not that great. It is a plus net rating of about 2, but that offensive rating is at 109 for the two of them when they're on the floor together. It's not good enough for a team that last year relied on scoring, and just, you score 128, we'll score 132 if we want to win this game. So you still have to like a total. I think Vassell being out does hurt you from the standpoint that you don't have that much scoring on San Antonio to stick around. He's one of the 2, maybe 3 guys that you feel comfortable being able to score 20 plus points on this team. Outside of Pirtle and Keldon Johnson, it's a pretty thin roster. Obviously, Josh Primo trying to come off the bench and be that spark as well. But I think mostly for San Antonio, what you're looking at this season is like you're talking about. They're just playing with a ton of pace, and they're playing pretty good defense. They're getting steals, and they're at least getting out in transition that way, which is what they need, because that half court offense doesn't really scare you. There's no one that really you feel that can take another player off the dribble one-on-one. They really don't have a single guy to break down the defense like that. It's really passing, which is why they're doing well. They're number 1 in assist percentage. They have 5 guys scoring at least 12 points a game. Minnesota allowing the most assists per game. As we say, again, last season, they were also that bad on defense. There's no communication there. Rudy has not come in and shown that he's able to impact anything outside of just keeping people out of the paint, which he's able to do. But that wing defense is so atrocious right now for Minnesota. You can't feel good about it. So I think, for getting right in this game for Minnesota, what does that look like? They have to take care of the ball, for sure. I mean, they have the 5th most turnovers, 5th lowest assist percentage, leading to the 5th worst assist to turnover ratio. Unsurprisingly, they allow the 2nd most fast break points. So it's just, obviously you're going to allow fast break points when you turn the ball over 18 times a game or 16 times a game, whatever they're at right now. So second chance points, all that kind of stuff, they've got to cut it off. And I don't trust them to do that to the tune of beating this team by 9 points. The Spurs are taking care of the ball on their end. They're covering, in the spots that they need to. And it's not that hard to cover this Timberwolves spacing right now, which is just, like I said, said, non-existent and really atrocious. So points, yes, I think this game definitely goes 230. Once you start talking about 235, I get a little bit nervous, but I think I'm taking the 9 points here, Nate, and then I'm actually going to watch this one a little bit live, bet that total if I can, and see if that first quarter starts a little bit slowly or fast, and kind of make my predictions from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense based on what I said with the fourth quarter scoring versus the Spurs and the expectation that, Pop kind of joked like, oh, we're not even coming on Wednesday. Like he's having fun with this season right now. He understands the ebb and flow of the NBA and that the Wolves are going to be gunning for them at this point. I mean, there are other ways to just bet on the offense bouncing back or at least maintaining what they did on Monday. And D'Lo, who's taken on a lot more ball handling responsibilities, playmaking this year, and kind of carrying it early without Ant. He's only at 18.5 points, nearly even money there. I don't mind taking the over there. He went for 25, 5, and 7 in this Monday matchup. D'Lo 25 points again in the win is plus 400 or about plus 200 for 20 points in the win. I think you could sprinkle on both of those. Or, Cat double-double again. He has put up some big lines against the Spurs. He is a self-proclaimed leader, as you like to talk about, and as he likes to talk about himself in the third person, basically. And he went out there in the post game and talked about how Anthony Edwards needs to clean up his diet and be in better shape and play better, which is, fair enough, but I don't see why you need to say that on the podium. Right. But now he has to go back up his leadership with a nice performance here at home if he is the leader of this team. So I think looking at Cat and D'Lo, Anthony Edwards has not had good numbers against the Spurs historically. I don't know if it's what they do with the coaching staff or what Keldon Johnson and company can do on the court to actually contain him, but I think the Spurs are going to be kind of an easy target for point guards all year without DeJounte as they mix in those young guys, Primo and Trey Jones. So I think D'Lo has another solid game here. That's why I look at his props and the Wolves winning because of his offensive production.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. And then a couple other shooters, including obviously adding Dougie McDermott, playing pretty well. So I think there's some things like about the Spurs. It's not a great roster, man, but there's Keldon Johnson and Vassell, Devin Vassell, they're playing above their pay grade for sure. And Pirtle's, shooting 60% from the field. So if Pirtle's, if he's going to play that well, maybe he's not going to be the subject of a trade later this season. We'll see. Either way, 9 points, too much in this one after a game where they just beat the T-Wolves by 9 points. So Nate, let's go ahead and jump into some of these player props we got on this 10-game Wednesday night slate in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pascal Siakam against the Sixers here, a.k.a. the worst transition D in history through 4 games. We've seen allowing 19 fast break points per game, allowing opponents to shoot 58% inside the arc, and allowing a league-high 14.3 boards per game to power forwards. So Pascal, I like the rebounds and assists most here, 14.5. He's just putting up numbers across the board. You get 5.5 assists at even money, or you can get 38.5 PRA. I don't have a problem with that. I think we're just a little scarred. I think last year we picked his PRA like 3 times and he was 1 short or something every single time. Yeah, they were just like right there. But this year is a contract year for Spicy P, and he is absolutely attacking it. I guess I'll pull a Josh and be like, I'm glad I took him in the 3rd round of my fantasy drafts because he's putting up numbers.
That's interesting, Nate. I care about that. Thank you for sharing.
Solid pick. But what he's averaging this year, 26.5 points, 10 boards, 7 assists. So that's good for like 43 PRA, 41 if you just go per 36 minutes. And we know what Nick Nurse does with his starters is just play him. And he's played 44 minutes in 3 straight against the Sixers. 44 minutes, averaging 27, 8, and 6, shooting 54% from the floor, and had a triple-double in the last regular season matchup against this team. Just saying that because it's plus 1,300 for a triple-double. Not necessarily saying that's that likely, but there are plenty of angles here, including plus 600 for 30 points in a Raptors win. Really, I like the even money bets here. I just think he's going to put up peripheral stats that the Sixers aren't really there yet. And they've always been a bad rebounding team over the last few years. That Embiid's health isn't there yet, so they're not protecting the paint as well as they should. And we know how bad their perimeter defense is with Harden and Maxey out there.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for usage, right? Like a lot of who's got the ball in their hands, and who's going to be involved in the offense. You hate picking a prop and you don't see the guy involved in the game. That's just not going to be the case with Pascal. And then, like you said, transition is really what you love for him, as he's a guy who loves to get those boards and then run. So because he can, as super versatile as he is, he's a tweener matchup problem for a lot of guys. And there's really no one on the 76ers that I think matches up well with him. So I'm with you on the Pascal and those hustle stats too. So I'm going to go to a guy here who I'm not really going to bother with the hustle stats with KD, Nate, as the Nets are taking on those Bucks. And my man just likes to score when he's on, in the limelight and playing against a team like the Bucks. 29.5 points is a high prop. Don't love taking 30-point props, but it's KD, and I really don't feel too nervous about it. He's averaging nearly 33 a game already. And also, I should say that minus 106 on FanDuel is the best place to find that 29.5 points as we're recording this for KD. You can talk about his boards at 6.5. That's really great odds at plus 114 there. Also on FanDuel, he does do that a lot against the Bucks in his last two regular season games against them last year. 33.5 points, 9 boards, 6 assists. Actually, I should say that's his last 4 total matchups, including the playoffs, on 50-37 splits, right, from the field and from 3. So this year, shooting 55% from the field overall, not as great from deep at about 33%. You'd like to see him get that up. It's like 2 for 6 a game right now for him, but he's going to the line 9 times. So 8 for 9 from the free throw line right there. If he's going to get 9 free throw attempts or 10 free throw attempts, I think, and he's going to continue to crash. I think, you've got to love his ability to get over that 30-point mark with that 34% usage rate, man. And it's starting to seem like no fun is really being had in Brooklyn, similar to LA, as we've talked about with the Lakers and guys like KD, Kyrie, LeBron. Might as well just pat those stats at this point, because those teams, their two teams, do not look ready for a meaningful playoff run.
Yeah, I know you're kind of scared off the peripheral stats, the hustle stats for Mr. Durant because of what he's shown the first 4 games here, but I think he does come to play in this particular matchup. I do kind of like the plus money for 7 rebounds. I mean, if he doesn't board, the Nets aren't going to have any chance in this game, and he's got to mix it up and get down there. But I understand the risk here because there is a chance he's just kind of mentally checked out and just going to be like, yep, I'll score effortlessly, but I'm not really doing anything else for this team. But he does score effortlessly. Like you said, 30 points is scary for some guys. Not for KD, especially because the Bucks, like Giannis, doesn't necessarily check him much of the game, which doesn't make sense because now without PJ Tucker, they really don't have a good matchup for him. So I don't know who's going to guard him. He should have his way along with Kyrie. Also liking some peripheral stats here for DeJounte Murray against the Pistons. And this one does make me nervous. I would recommend a small play because I think the Pistons could get blown out on the second half of the back-to-back. They've been really bad. But they've been really bad on defense. And that's the key here. So bad, in fact, that the Hawks, who have been really trying to figure out the your turn, my turn thing with 2 elite point guards on their team, might give DeJounte a little more usage here. I mean, that's the biggest concern for his numbers, right? Moving from San Antonio. Usage has dropped from 27 to 23%. His per 36 numbers are still respectable, 18, 7, and 8. So 7 and 8 gets you to 15.5 rebounds / assists, which is where his prop is at right now. But he's playing 39 minutes per game, so he's averaging over those per 36 numbers. And then, you look at the matchups, just Detroit, 25th in points allowed, fast break points, in assist to turnover ratio. They're dead last in scoring margin. They're tired on a back-to-back. They allow the 3rd most assists to point guards, 4th most rebounds to point guards, and top 10 in point guards and shooting guards scoring, with Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham figuring out the defensive side of the ball. So also could look at DeJounte to hit 2 threes here, getting nice minus 100. 102 at FanDuel, that is, for him to do that. I just think he'll get a few more touches. a few more opportunities. Hopefully, even if it does get a little bit out of hand. I mean, each game has been a double-digit margin for the Hawks thus far, but DeJounte's still playing 39 minutes, like I said. So I think they are just trying to get him used to this new surrounding, and they will give him a little more usage here in an easy matchup.
Yeah, no, it's working out. I think the backcourt's it's working out. It's going to work out. I think DeJounte needs a little bit more time for sure. Trey's kind of just like, yo, I'm already here doing my thing. He hasn't really changed the way he's playing. He's probably gotten better, to be honest with you, has Trey, and he's already having a better shooting season than last year. All of that leads you to just feel pretty good about DeJounte and all those peripheral stats for him, hustle stats and everything, because he is getting all of those rebounds and assists as well. It's awesome to watch, actually, the fact that he and Trey are both able to get their assists the way that they are. So I'm never gonna. I don't think I'm gonna be scared of props like 7 assists for him or 8 boards, like at times in the right matchup, like they'll have tonight. I think DeJounte is going to be a stud for sure all season. So let's finish things off with the reigning 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic, who just came off the elusive 9-9-9 game for Joker, mostly due to foul trouble. Right, only played 27 minutes. It's those 9 points that you look at. That's the Andre Karolinko special, right, where he just gets a ton of stats in each of those categories. Only 27 minutes. The foul trouble. Aaron Gordon had a really good game, incidentally, as they were able to maintain that win against, as they were not able to pull out the win against the Blazers there because of that foul trouble for Jokic. So I think he's going to come back with a pretty nice vengeance tonight. He usually plays pretty well against the Lakers, and definitely, you like the 12.5 boards here at -102 on FanDuel. I like that as well. He's averaging that, right, essentially this season, but he's also just does that against the Lakers. He knows that, he can body every single player on their team. There's nobody strong enough or big enough to play with him. If they dare to play, AD at the 5 against him, it's going to be night time. He's going to be doing a lot of what he likes to do down there. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of motivation for him in this game as well. I like the points, rebounds, and assists, 46.5. I see him getting, close to 30 points and the 13 rebounds or so feel like a pretty nice bet for him as well. So obviously you expect him to get the three assists at that point, if my math is correct. So I'm not scared about any of that stuff, because I think he's going to dominate at least 2 of those categories in points, rebounds, and assists to get above 47 of them.
Yeah, props are a little low for Joker because of what he's coming off here. Yeah, but that's just kind of like extra rest. And you look at what he did with even 2 days of rest last year. He averaged 15 boards, go along with 27.5 points. He also averaged 15 boards in 2 games against this version of the awful Lakers, who just missed a ton of shots. And that's really the key here. Is the Lakers are dead last in offensive rating. They have a 97 offensive rating. That is 6 points per 100 possession worse than any other team in the NBA. So, and there's still, so there's going to be plenty of bricks out there for Jokic to rebound. And if Aaron Gordon's tangling with Anthony Davis, if the Lakers do play a traditional center, it's just Jokic gobbling up those boards. So that's why I think at even money, that's where I go first. But I think the safest play is the PRA, because he should fill it up all around here.
I agree. I also wanted to talk about this game in one of our game videos, but I think we have a pretty strict no Nets and Lakers in the same show or day of games policy. So we went with the Nets on that one. Joker, a good bet against these Lakers, though. So that is all the time we have for you guys today. Continue to follow along. We are staying super hot so far. I believe we went about 4-1 last night, 4-0 the night before. Definitely staying well above 500, closer to 75% on these player props. So definitely continue to follow along with us each and every weekday of this regular season. And until we see you next, happy betting.